Mike and Matt bringing back the mid to late 90s. Mike and Matt bringing back X-Files CCG.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Matt and Mike and Steven's X-Files CCG. With me, as always, is Steven filling in. Thank you so much for being here, Steven.
Oh, you know there's no place I'd rather be.
I'm trying to think of some place I'd rather be, and I just can't think of anything right now.
Well, right now, but 6 months from now, I might have a different answer, actually.
Oh, nice. I like that segue.
Right? I teed you up right there. You know?
Boom! So we wanted to say thank you. First and foremost, I came out, it was about a month ago at this point, and found that I have all these 1013 playtest cards.
Thank you, Brian Woodward, for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Brian Woodward, for gifting us those. And I was trying to think of ways to help our good friend, our mutual friend, Dax, come to Philefest with us in September. And I was like, man, what if I put these up for sale, basically, sort of pay as you feel necessary, no set prices. And I got to tell you, you guys, none of you were cheap. None of you were like, I'll take 2 for 99 cents. Everybody was extremely gracious, and Dax is coming now. He's coming to Philefest. It's actually happening. This is where you insert the applause.
Oh, yeah. Hands clapping, the whole 9 yards. Confetti raining down, everything.
Exactly. Well, I have a little bit of a confession to make. I started doing that sale thing, and they started going. If you message me and you know who you are, it was quick. People were getting requests off really quick, and funds were starting to come in, and we started sending Dax some money, and his reaction was, mate, did you get scans of those cards? And I went,
uh-oh.
Oh, crap. So I'm at work, we're slow, and I scanned them all in. Before I sent any to anyone, I was luckily, by the skin of my teeth, able to scan them all in. And that's what we want to talk about today, and that's what we want to show you today, because I know that just from scanning them in, I did not pay attention. And oh, Steven, here, take a look at these really quick for me, buddy. And I know you got a hold of me, and you're like, Mike, there's way more changes than you thought. So you sent them over to me, and we've got some stuff that we want to go over today with you. We want to talk about those 1013 playtest cards from Brian Woodward, because some of them are just bonkers, man.
I'm telling you, man, my head was spinning the more I kept reading these things. When you were initially posting these on Facebook for everyone to take a look at and decide which ones they want, I glanced at a few of them. Oh, I was like, oh, that's cool. Change there. Oh, rarity is different there. But then when you started really looking at them, especially certain ones that we're going to talk about in greater detail in a moment,
oh yeah,
the amount of changes from these playtest cards to the final product is quite staggering.
Yeah, I'm really kind of ashamed of myself, because I know that, obviously there were the 1013 playtest cards, and when I initially had sent that out, I realized, oh, wow, there's still like a Mulder, a Scully, and a Krycek, and a Skinner in there. And I'm sure they got put in there for, just to balance the game,
Of course, you really can't play a playtest using just the 1013 agents. There's some good ones in there. Krycek, you're great, but you're not that great. You need to have Krycek alongside Mulder or Scully, which would be preferable.
Exactly. So I had a couple people message me, hey, that'd be great if I could get the playtest cards for, Skinner and Mulder and Scully. And my initial reaction was like, oh, okay, I mean, these weren't premier playtest cards, but yeah, if you really want them, I'll send them over. Again, I didn't really look at them that closely. And then, Steven, you messaged me and you're like, do you realize the effects? So let's just get right into those at the start. That sounds like a good idea to
Absolutely.
me, right?
It's a great idea.
Let's start out with the agents. So I think you sent over a list. I got to give you, thank you again for going over with these with a fine-tooth comb.
My pleasure.
Because I am, Oh man, burning the candle at both ends. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first one you got is Agent Scully, right? What are these differences in the playtest
All right,
cards?
so Agent Dana Scully. So the most notable aspect regarding Scully is that her skills were amended between the playtest card that we had received from Brian to what eventually became the commercially released one. Most notably, Scully has 2 behavioral versus 1 in the commercially released card, and 2 occult investigation versus just the 1 occult investigation her commercially released card received, which was pretty interesting. They had to balance out Scully's effect compared to some of the other agents we're going to be talking about in just a moment, and you'll see some of the more staggering changes to their effect momentarily. The most startling aspect of Dana Scully's card is that her keyword was not actually skeptic, but rather believer.
Yeah. Now, before we start getting completely into these cards, again, these came from Brian Woodward as playtest cards for the 1013 set. We don't know if some of these were just, hey man, I like this idea better, let me throw this on this card right at this moment, or hey, I think this is going to balance the game better if we do this. There's a lot of history to these cards that we don't know, and we will be following this up by talking with Brian Woodward. I did, surprise Stephen, I did already talk to him, and he's willing to talk to us about these cards.
Excellent.
So we will be going over more of the specifics. If you guys have questions specifically about these cards and the difference of, different of effects, man, I can speak today. Difference of effects. Leave a comment or hit us up and we'll go over them. So I said the Skinner's the next one, right? This one's cool, man. I think this is one of the coolest ones that you showed me. That I'm gonna apologize 5,000 times in this video. I'm sorry, but I just didn't see it, man. I didn't read it. I got lazy.
You had a lot going on, but really, you guys really need to check out these scan versions once Dax eventually posts them on the Facebook group. And of course, as you can see, they're popping up on the screen here. But for starters, with regards to Skinner's playtest agent card, his biography is noticeably different from the commercial released one, in especially the last part of it, in which it reads that Assistant Director Skinner, though at times at odds with Agents Mulder and Scully, which that part is the same in the commercial release version, but it goes on to say that Skinner has been exposed to enough of the conspiracies to know that keeping the X-Files open is vital to the cause of justice. And I gotta say, I really do like that bio, and it's kind of a shame that it was amended later on. For one thing, Skinner has a keyword neutral attached to him, which you normally see in agents who maybe towed the line a bit too far, like Krycek or Patterson. But we did know at times during the course of the series that Skinner was, stepping over onto the conspirator side, but for worthwhile reasons, most notably to the aid of Mulder and Scully, though it may not have appeared that way initially. So I do like that original bio, and it is cool to see that, even in the course of penning these biographies for these agent cards, that they went through some iterations as well as the skills and the game effect.
You're dead right. So if we remember, Skinner's normal effect is you can just basically contribute skills from the bureau, right?
Yeah, he's his res, while normally 1, is treated as 3 res whenever he's in the bureau. And so Skinner, by most players who use a bureaucracy themed deck, they tend to keep Skinner and Blevins in the bureau through the bulk of the game in order to really get more bang for their buck when generating their resource pool.
And try and get a cell phone to boot, as far as, giving their skills there. But this is nuts. This is place 2 tokens, and if Skinner is in the bureau, he may discard 1 token to negate a government adversary played on any one of your agent's teams.
Not a government pawn, not a government master, but any government adversary, which would include Joseph Patnick, who is very hard to negate because he is a government phenomena. So he's very hard to get rid of. And the fact that Skinner doesn't even have to leave the Bureau in order to negate a government adversary. So he can hang out with his cell phone. He doesn't even need the cell phone to be able to negate an adversary. And it's not just one adversary. We're talking two government adversaries. If I were the opposing player, I'd be very disinclined to throw Crew Cut Man or Joseph Patnick or the mechanic or even the red-haired man at my opposing player with Skinner sitting there in the Bureau ready to just, at the lift of a token, there goes your adversary right there. That is a very, very powerful effect coupled with his Res 3 treatment to the point where Skinner, even though he's RP6 compared to Mulder and Scully's RP7, that this effect certainly makes him quite powerful, even compared to Mulder and Scully.
Yep. Stephen, every time we talk, I'm just so amazed at your knowledge of this game. Like, you can just list off the different government adversaries, and it's mind-boggling to me, man. You're an encyclopedia for the X-Files collectible card game, man. So, yeah.
Imagine if I put more worthwhile knowledge into my brain. Where might I be then?
For me, at least, I know we're getting a little off topic here, and that's fine, but for me, at least, you know how, like, when you're a kid, like, you have specific memories in your life, but as far as being a kid, like, most of it's a blur, especially when you're really young, And for me, for whatever reason, I don't know why, I can't explain it, was I will forever remember the evening back in September when the X-Files was first premiered, and I watched it, and it was like, at this point, okay, I'm going to be here every Friday night, and I'm not doing stuff with my friends. Like, this is important to me. And man, it's weird that that's one of the things that I can remember from that age because of how important it was. Talk about Krycek. Yeah, he's next.
Okay, so as I was saying, yes, Krycek, his earliest playtest version was noticeably more limited compared to the finalized Krycek that we're all familiar with, in which Krycek has the option to allocate his 2 res to the conspiracy pool or the resource pool, depending on, the player's preference at that point in the game. However, the playtest version of Krycek, as was shown on this playtest card gifted by Brian, is that Krycek had not 2, but 3 res. And that didn't. And unlike Skinner, it doesn't matter where Krycek is in the table, whether it be in the field or the Bureau. Krycek had 3 res. But here's the thing: is that Krycek was only allowed to contribute his res to the conspiracy pool. The option was not there. He only could contribute to the conspiracy pool during each briefing phase.
Yep. And I love the specific of his background, the additional that's put on there that says he aided in the abduction of Scully, killed Mulder's father, attempted to kill Mulder, he shot Scully instead, and was present at Melissa Scully's murder. Like, that dude's just a jerk.
And this is just covering him up until the beginning of season 3. As we know, Krycek had a lasting stay in the series, a lot longer than a lot of us would have expected. For a lot of us, we figured he had met his end halfway through season 3 when he was locked in the missile silo, but he just kept coming back, and so his list of atrocities just kept growing over the course of the series. And so, can you imagine putting a bio like this on a card for Krycek throughout the 8 seasons that he was alive in this series? It was like, you know what, you'd have to put it on the back side of the card too, as well as the front.
God, and there'd be so much stuff there.
Oh yeah. All right.
And I mean, I'm psyched. He's going to be at Philefest, right?
Yes, Nicholas Lee. Of the 4 primary characters in this game, Mulder, Scully, Skinner, Krycek, Nicholas Lee is the one to this point has been confirmed to appear at Philefest.
Yep.
As of the time of this recording, there are about, I think, at least seven more guests that have yet to be unveiled. I might be give or take a number, but I believe they just dropped two more guests just today. So I think we're sitting at around 6 or 7 more to be revealed.
Secret thing.
Sounds good. All right, so
All right.
let's last but not least, let's turn to the fourth agent for which we want to discuss regarding these playtest cards, and that is Agent Fox Mulder, who most notably a key difference in this playtest card versus the finalized version of Mulder is that he had not 2 but 1 res, and the key difference, or actually there's two portions to his game effect, and I'll talk about the first one. The first difference is that Mulder may not choose to add his 1 RP to the resource pool, and that makes it interesting in that it seems to be what they were trying to say is this was an early iteration of the mechanic in which Mulder must use his 2 res to purchase cards, but they didn't quite have it refined at this point, and so they needed to later clarify that Mulder had to allocate his resource to buying cards. But noticeably, they did only have him at 1 res at this point, but then later on gave him 2 res. But Mike, do you want to talk about the second portion of his effect? And this is a really telling detail that may provide us a window into some of the early conceptions of this game.
Yeah, exactly. It could be. Here's the weird thing about it. It could be early or it could be later. It certainly wasn't present for Premiere or Truth or 1013, but it started, or actually I think there was a couple on 1013 if I'm not mistaken.
No, just one in the Scully set. This is the only time.
Scully set, that's what I meant. But it was there. It was a new possible game aspect, and it was discard a token to play a site for 0 RP cost, or to reveal and discard any one secret. So what does that mean? Like I said, we don't necessarily know if this was a pre-premiere or a post-1013 card at this point. Again, I'm going to apologize like 30 times for this. I just did not I did not read these things. That's what makes these cards so special and so unique. Honestly, I think if I had read these things, I might have tried to keep these ones for myself.
As I do recall, Mulder and Scully were snatched up within minutes of posting this video or that Facebook post throwing these cards out there.
Exactly, yeah. Do you? Of course, what card was it from 223 that was the secret card?
As Mike was saying earlier, it's a question of whether or not there's a possibility that at one time during the early conception of this game that there was perhaps, emphasis on perhaps, a possible 10th card type that operated similarly to face-down bluffs. And those cards would have had a card type called secret with an additional keyword secret that corresponded to its card type. We don't know that for sure, but we have not just this playtest card to lend us a little bit of that supposition, but we also have one notable event card from the 22364 Scully expansion that really left us puzzled as to where they might have been going with this particular detail. And I'll put this card up on the screen for you over here, but the event card in question was called Discovering the Truth, and it reads as follows. Play this card to reveal any face-down card by turning it face up, except for your opponent's X file, of course. If it has the keyword secret, it is discarded. So again, secret with a capital S. This is all we have to go on at this point. So 2 sources that suggest, and I say that suggest, not confirm, that at some point, whether it be early in the pre-premiere days or perhaps an idea that a kernel that they were laying out for a future expansion
it may have just been something that fell through the cracks. It may have just been something, oh, we should totally do this whole secret thing. All right, cool. And somebody was like, all right, cool. Yeah, add secret to all these cards. And one of them got added, and then somebody forgot about it, and it went through into production. And the whole idea was just, it's just gone. And now we've got these remnants where we're like, well, wait, was this a whole new thing that you guys were going to do? And they're just like, maybe? Like, yeah, because I mean, you got to remember this is the better part of 30 years that these guys did this, and there has not been one person that I've talked to, including Mr. May himself, that has not told me, man, I don't know, it's been close to 30 years, I don't know. So, got to give people the benefit of the doubt on this sometimes, unfortunately. So.
This is why this channel exists, is to continue to explore, the dark, forgotten aspects of this game, and then hopefully, as time goes on, and are able to, get more people to agree to interviews, we might hopefully learn a bit more of those answers, and not just for our own edification, but for those of us who are aspiring to pick up where they left off and create future fan-made expansions. We might be able to at least come up with custom cards that are faithful to at least some of the ideas that they had that we might have seen had the game continued.
Well, and honestly, Stephen, I think you've already done that. I think that with the new set that you have been working on, and then on my end as well, the Blackwood set, was like, okay, cool, we have to exist within these boundaries, right? Because it has to work from here to here. So how can we manipulate things and make them work without jumping out of these barriers?
Correct.
And we've been very successful. We've come up, especially yourself, you come up with just amazing game effects that when you read them, you're like, wait, what the? Oh man, that'll work. That's cool, and it's just fun things that you can add to the game.
It tests the elasticity of the game, but without breaking its inherent rules and structure and mechanics. So we try to stay faithful to the game's mechanics, but also take it down new and interesting avenues.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm sure David May, if you're watching right now, you'll absolutely agree. The game is what you make it. How you play it is how it's best played. And as long as we're staying faithful to the origin of the game, and it's so much fun. You can just add so many new effects and whatnot. And oh man, it's just and you can tell, like, you can tell with some of the cards that were officially released. Like, I know, Foo Fighters, one of them. Charles Tuscany was one of them. Some guy somewhere, whether it was Duncan, Ron, doesn't matter, whoever it was, had this weird idea. Hey, I want to do this card that's like outside of the box. So the the desire to make these types of cards was there while they were being produced. And that's why it's so fun to continue on with creating those types of cards. It's because that's what they intended. That's what makes the game fun. The fact that 1013 had so many differences, and we just, spent the last 20 whatever minutes talking to you guys about just the 4 agents that weren't even part of 1013 is mind-blowing. It's just a testament to how different these cards were. And there's so much more to go over. So if you guys, stay tuned. We got part 2 coming out soon. We're going to talk more about the specifics of the actual 1013 cards, and just the little nuances. Some of them, not much. Some of them, the titles are changed just a little bit. One, Stephen, you found one that ended up actually being a 223 card, right?
We're talking about Sheriff Teller, which that's sort of, it's kind of sort of a 1013, 1013 and a 22364, but though the effects was still slightly modified, but it goes to show that they had some different ideas for the witness cards.
Okay.
There's two there's actually 2 witness cards of note from the 1013 versions, of which the characters were somewhat antagonistic in the episode, and so not wanting to make them full on witnesses that would only be beneficial to the investigating team, but have something of a detrimental effect to mirror the fact that Mulder and Scully weren't exactly on the same wavelength with some of these characters. And so this is a notion that made some of these witness cards for 1013's playtest cards anyway stand out amongst you might say, the humdrum of the usual witness cards. Adds 2 to this, adds 1 to that. But that we'll talk about in the next episode.
That was a great segue. We'll see you guys next time on Mike and Matt Stevens X-File CCP.